The Beatles with Thank You Girl, right here on the Vintage Rock and Pop Shop. And our guest today is author and sociologist Candy Leonard, whose new book, Beatleness, was one of the big surprises for me in 2014. I didn't see this book coming, and as soon as I picked it up and started reading it, I was enthralled. It's a document of how fans in the 60s reacted to the Beatles. Candy interviewed many first-generation fans about their experiences following the Beatles and how it changed their lives. Candy, how did this project come about?
Well, in some sense, it began in my living room in Queens, New York in February of 1964. I had this feeling even as a kid that I was witnessing something extraordinary. And there was something about this that was very powerful, and it really kind of started my cultural consciousness.
You know, there have been literally thousands of books written about the Beatles that tell the story of the group, but the story of the fans is more or less a sidebar in these books. The story always focuses on the Beatles and how they reacted to things rather than their fans.
We were missing from the story. See, this was the thing that always struck me as so peculiar, really. I interviewed probably close to 150 people, men and women, and I break it down by the experience, how it was different for boys and girls, men and women, and also of different ages, because we forget. And it's amazing to me in so many interviews and conversations I've had about the book, how people really do forget that the bulk of the fans were children. We were literally children. What was the biggest impact on us growing up? Hello?
Right.
The Beatles.
Yeah, we know the Beatles appeared on The Ed Sullivan Show on February 9th, 1964. I want you to describe for us what it was like going to school February 10th, that Monday, when you were living in Queens growing up.
Well, it was before and after, It was before and after. And it was February 10th, 1964, and that was the day that, boys across America, as young as 7, 8, 9, begged their parents for guitars, for drums, right? That people, the hair. I mean, it changed literally overnight. It's all anybody wanted to talk about. I did an interview this morning, and the interviewer asked me what the word Beatling meant. And the word like you talking about the Beatles, thinking about the Beatles with your friends and discussing and all this. I mean, that's where that started, and it was so much fun and so joyful, and it connected you with people, and you were part of this amazing thing that had just entered our lives, And the hair was a big part of it. The boys who had pompadours the weekend, the Friday afternoon before, on Monday morning, they combed it forward, and some of them were quite long because they had it rather piled up. There's a story that I should tell. This was in spring of '64. I was in second grade, and we had to do current events homework. Right? It was, we had to find an article and paste it to the loose leaf paper and, bring it. Anyway, so I chose an article. There was a picture, which is now a very famous picture taken on the set of A Hard Day's Night of the four of them, sort of sitting in director's chairs, getting haircuts. I think Patty's in the picture. Right. So that picture had appeared in, I don't know, the Long Island Press or whatever newspaper it was, and a little caption. So I bring this in for current events, right? And the teacher says, this is unacceptable. You have to do this over. And I said, why? And she said, this is not newsworthy. And mind you, this was April of 1964, right, during the filming of A Hard Day's Night. So to tell this 7-year-old that the Beatles were not newsworthy, in other words, this woman is obviously deaf, dumb, and blind. I mean, does she, in other words, does she not, what's going on here? Is she not, And so it was just, and as I'm, thought about this more recently, it was really this moment of sort of, this sort of adults don't know what they're talking about kind of thing.
Sure, generation gap.
And that was, which of course was, certainly, that was a big part of the whole thing that happened in the 60s was that they really helped to create that.
to everybody all along there.
We're talking with author Candy Leonard about her new book, Beatleness, which documents how the Beatles fans reacted to the group and the culture around them. And Candy, can you explain to us the differences between how boys at the time reacted to the Beatles and how girls reacted?
Right. I mean, people always, for years have been saying that boys wanted to be them, girls wanted to be with them.
Right.
And I think that's probably for the most part true, but it's more nuanced than that, because they could be role models for boys of any age in a way that they could not be for girls. In fact, there's one fan that I interviewed, she said that she, when she wanted to play guitar, her parents provided her with an acoustic guitar. This girl said, I didn't want to be Joan Baez or Joni Mitchell. I wanted to be John Lennon. So they couldn't be role models for girls in the same way. So girls/women in the 60s wanted men who were like the Beatles, okay? Not macho, open-minded. They were more complex. The other thing, again, these were very different times than we live in today, and we forget that. And so, if we assume that 10% of the population is gay now, which is, I think that's the current statistic, and let's say that was true then as well. So, there was some number of boys who wanted to be with them too.
Right.
So,
Sure.
The bottom line is that they were attractive and compelling and engaging for various reasons for many different sets of eyes and different sensibilities. That's why they were so huge. That's why that was what was so amazing.
In the book, you talk about fans going on a Beatle break around 1966, around the time of Revolver. A lot of fans, well, maybe not a lot, but some fans found the more psychedelic music eerie and frightening. And in fact, a lot of them talk about being scared to listen to it.
Again, this gets back to forgetting that these were children we're talking about. Everybody has seen the famous footage of Dick Clark, and he's asking the teenagers about, their hair and the look, and of course the response is not overwhelmingly positive.
The Beatles have kept pretty much to themselves in the last 7 or 8 months. They haven't released many single recordings. There have been thousands of rumors about their breakup. They'd say they're not going to tour anymore. They're not going to travel around. Would you pay to see them in person if they came to your town?
I wouldn't pay if they came to my town. I mean, I don't like the Beatles.
They're as bad as the Monkees.
I think they went out with a twist.
Interesting. All righty.
Let me take you.
We'll just keep looking at this for a second. And I want to get your impression of what you've just seen as they slowly fade away. What'd you think of that?
I don't like their hair, their mustache.
You didn't dig the mustaches, huh? What was your comment?
I don't know, they looked older, and it ruins their image, really.
Mm-hmm. How did you feel?
They're ugly. Their mustaches were weird.
Fast forward 6 months, everybody looked like that. So these younger fans found, the psychedelia a little too much, and it kind of started with Revolver, which left fans. In fact, one fan talked particularly about the album ending with Tomorrow Never Knows was particularly disturbing. The song was disturbing, but its placement on the record was even more disturbing, because, that's what they left me with?
We're talking with Beatles author Candy Leonard today on the Vintage Rock and Pop Shop. Her new book is called Beatleness. It's actually been out for some time. And Candy, I think about a young fan today, a teenager today. If they discovered the Beatles right now, they could run over to the internet and hear every single track, every single bootleg, alternate takes, full concerts. They could watch every TV appearance. They could see everything and find more information than anyone in the 60s could have hoped for.
Yeah, it's interesting. I think you're absolutely right. It would be very different. You would be finding it as this. It would be this huge, massive things to jump into all at once if you wanted to suddenly learn about them. Whereas when we were watching it happen, we only knew what we knew, like all the behind-the-scenes stuff and all, and those things were happening, but it wasn't. We didn't know it yet. In other words, we didn't start learning things till after. But watching them evolve and change, and that feeling of what were they going to look like when we saw them next, and you talk about people, sort of going onto YouTube and all this. I mean, we didn't know when we would see them again. So one of the reasons people sat through the movie over and over, what you could do in those days, whether it was A Hard Day's Night or Help, they used to sit there all day. They didn't throw you out. Even if you didn't buy any popcorn, nobody bothered you. You sit there, because we didn't know when we'd see them again, And it was like somebody sees in TV Guide, oh, it's all of it. It says the Beatles are going to be on. Oh, I wonder if it's really going to be them. Or is it just going to be a film? There was this excitement, And so that can't be relived,
Sure.
Sorry.
Yeah, those days are over.
But there was something that, and sitting up with your siblings till 2 or 3 in the morning, discussing, as one fan discussed it, we had intellectual conversations about Yoko Ono, and in other words, there's this kind of working on all this stuff that they put out. There's the music, the covers, and put the whole Paul is Dead thing, which was fascinating.
Sure.
Look, it was just, I'm amazed to this day people are still like Googling this book. There's so much interest in that. I got a letter from a 12-year-old girl who read my book.
Oh, great.
This was not an email she sent me. This girl sent me a piece of loose leaf paper where she just wrote, it's like handwritten. It's just, I have it, I put it up on Beatleness. It's at my Facebook page.
Oh, I'll have to check it out.
I did a blog post on it, because it was really inspiring to me.
Well, speaking of the internet and readers getting in touch with you, where would they go to find the book, Beatleness?
Beatleness is available wherever books are sold, which in these days most people just click on Amazon or BarnesandNoble.com, but you can get it at brick and mortar. I know a lot of brick and mortar Barnes and Nobles have them, and you can get it at your local indie bookstore. And I found out that the Beatleness ebook is $1.99. I'm not sure how long it's going to be $1.99, but it's currently $1.99. So if you enjoy ebooks, you can take your time travel back. You can pretend it's like you can pretend your reader device is a time machine, and you can go back to the 60s. Everything's in there: the assassinations, the Democratic Convention, Woodstock, Charles Manson. It's all in there.
So if someone wanted to,
in such a short period of time.
Oh yeah. If someone were to try to catch up with you on the internet, do you have a website for the book or a personal website?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, there's a Beatleness.com is the website, and there's a blog there as well. I try to write, keep it pretty current. So Beatleness.com, and I'm on there's a Beatleness Facebook page, which you can like.
All right.
And we can communicate that way. And, so if you, sometimes people don't want to, buy a hardcover book for whatever reason. Maybe they're traveling on the subway, or they, it doesn't plan their book budget. $1.99 Beatleness. I don't know how long it's going to be, but
I'll take a look.
I've been told today.
Well, Candy, thanks so much for spending some time with us today on the Vintage Rock and Pop Shop.
Thanks a lot.